Today, we're gonna be mixing an incredible indie pop track from scratch. Take a listen to the before and after.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overpowered. I'ma need some time. Please, just let me be. Yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a power. Something to just set me.
It's a massive transformation, and in this video, I'm gonna be simplifying the entire process. I'm gonna show you every single step, exactly how we went from raw to a fully polished mix. So before we get started, a huge shout out to the artist Allegra. Go check out the entire catalog. We'll link it in the description. It's absolutely incredible, and this track, City Limits, is no exception. We're gonna do this entire mix using just a couple of plugins. Now you can apply these to any plugins that you're using. We're gonna be using Xpitch, Xvox Pro, Xrider, and Xrack Pro. And we're gonna be able to do the entire mix with just this handful of plugins. So let's break down this session and understand what we're working with. Here we've got a bunch of vocal tracks. You can see that in some spots we just have the lead vocals. Sometimes we have these massive stacks, a bunch of ad libs and hooks and harmonies.
Yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a bar.
Some really incredible vocals, and in this video we're going to talk about how to give them that polish, that shine, and place them perfectly in the mix so they're always up front, but they have a nice pocket in the music. We're going to go over all of that. We've got a bunch of drums in this session here. Some good grooves. We're going to talk about how to get some extra punch and glue on those drums just to make those transients feel really fat and punchy. Then we've got some bass. Kind of an electric bass sound. We're going to talk about how to make that bass feel really big but without getting muddy. Then we've got some guitars. This is kind of the main instrument driving the track. And they were recorded with some really nice delays and effects, so that makes our job a little bit easier, but we're still gonna have to kind of fit those in, make sure that they have their own space, they have enough room to breathe. We'll talk about how to do that. Then we've got some keys and a few other vocal effects down here. I love those reverse pianos. We want to make sure that those are really lush and sound really fat and warm. So we'll talk about all of those elements and a lot more in this video. So the first step I like to do with any mix like this is just get a rough fader balance going. It doesn't have to be perfect. I just want to get a general sense of where the mix is going.
Voices in my head's getting overpowered. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. Yeah. I don't wanna go out.
So these stacks were sticking out a bit. I like to tuck those in.
Voices in my head's getting overpowered. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. Yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a bar. Something to just set me free. No. Something to just set me free.
So again, I'm just kind of roughly balancing things. I'm not worried about it being perfect. I'm just kind of pulling things back to where they feel good.
Making me feel some type of way. Don't look at it like that, make me wanna attack. Not looking for something much to make me wanna come back. Shit, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overpowered.
That feels a lot better there on the vocals. There's still some of these vocal chops and vocal fills here. Let's see if these are...
But we could just fuck around for a minute, get to know the city limits. On the say it better if you're feeling something, won't admit it. Say whatever you want to.
So you can see I've got just a very general basic mix going here. A lot of these instruments were already pretty well balanced from the producer when they exported the stems, which is great. It's always the sign of a great production. The next thing I'm going to do is just make sure that overall my gain staging is generally good. We can see here on the master stereo out fader, I'm just going to play like a loud part of maybe the bridge.
I don't wanna go. There's something in the way I'm feeling.
Maybe a part of the hook here.
I don't wanna go out no more.
And so as long as we're not clipping this master output and we have a little bit of headroom, the headroom is just the spot between where those meters are peaking and the digital zero up here. As long as we have a little bit of that headroom, we're good to go. Then I'm just going to place a limiter on this track. I'm not really doing that much gain adjustment, just a little bit to kind of push into it, feel what that's going to feel like.
I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a bar. Something to just set me free.
So you can see we're not really doing that much with the limiter. I just like it for my process to have it on there and just to kind of barely mix into it a little bit. It can be nice to see what that's going to be like when we actually master the track. So that's step one. We got a good balance going on the faders. We made sure that we're not clipping the master. If we were clipping the master, we'd turn all the faders down so that we weren't clipping. And then we put a little limiter on there just to mix into it a bit. Now it's time to start treating some of these elements in the mix. And I'm going to start with the vocals. So the first thing I'll do is just a little bit of tuning. Now we don't want anything too robotic. We just want it to be a nice, tight, modern tuning. So the first step with any automatic tuner, we're going to set the key and scale. We know that this song is in the key of C minor. So once we have the key set correctly, then we can start playing around with the actual tuning algorithm controls. And we have transition, sustain, and strength. Now in this case, we want something pretty natural. So somewhere in this like 20 to 30 range is generally pretty good on transition. I really like that. Now the strength, if we wanted something a lot more natural and we really just wanted to touch in some of the notes, we could pull this strength down. Now, Allegra's an incredible singer. She's got amazing intonation. So really the tuning is just a stylistic choice here. We just want that stylistic, modern pop vocal sound. And this is how you get it. I don't wanna go out. Voices in my head's getting overpowered. I'ma need some time, please. Just let me be, yeah. So I'm kind of landing around this like 22, maybe 88 to 90% here on the strength. It's just a nice gentle tuning. It doesn't start to get robotic. Obviously, if we wanted robotic, we could just push the transition up. I don't wanna go out. But since we want it to be a bit more natural, pulling this transition down does the trick. I don't wanna go out. Voices in my head's getting overpowered. I'ma need some time, please. I love where that's sitting. Once we've dialed in our tuning settings, I'm gonna go ahead and assign this to group 1. Group 1 is gonna be for our leads. So now when I pull up Xpitch on lead vocal track 2, I can click 1 and it's gonna instantly assign it to this group. It's gonna copy over our settings and just save us a bunch of time from having to adjust this.
But we could just fuck around for a minute, get to know the city limits. On the say it better if you're feeling something, won't admit it. Say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way.
Perfect settings already, love that. Now I can do the same thing on lead vocal 3 here in the bridge.
I don't wanna go, I don't wanna go. There's something in the way I'm feeling.
Tuning sounds great. Now, some of these ad libs, like this ad lib, for example, let's see if we copy over this tuning, what happens.
Something to set me free, I feel,
It sounds great, and it sounds like the producer may have done some intentional artistic tuning on this as part of the production phase, which is totally normal, totally okay. Still add Xpitch on top just to tighten up the rest of it to match what we've done for the leads, but that's kind of where we're getting this little bit of robotic at the end is actually from the production phase. Which sounds really cool, I like that. So here's a little tiny note for ad lib 2. Now in this case, the vocal is kind of fluttering between 2 different notes. So I'm going to remove it from the group, and then I'm just going to remove a couple of notes here. So you can see now it's just targeting the note we want. It's not going to flutter. Sometimes if the vocals are just kind of in between a couple different notes, you can turn off the notes that you don't need for that track and just let it focus on the ones it needs. All right, so we're working our way through here, tuning all of these tracks. Now, one thing I'm going to do is copy over to our harmonies, and I'm going to just assign this to group 2. So now group 2 is going to be for all of our harmony tracks.
Some type of way.
So why this is so useful is I can just copy Xpitch onto all of these different harmony tracks. I'll solo them all out. And now since these harmony tracks are all in group 2, I can adjust one and it'll adjust them all the same way. So let's say we want like a super hard tune, almost like vocoder style effect. That's tuning all of these with the same settings. But if we want to get a more natural kind of group vocal effect, we can pull the transition down. And that can just really speed up your workflow. Now, here's a trick with tuning, especially when you have a group of vocals. So whenever you have a group of vocals, you're generally trying to get a much bigger sound, right? That's why you're layering vocals in the first place. But sometimes if you tune them all 100% the same way, you're going to get kind of a smaller sound. You're not going to have those natural variances and inconsistencies, which creates that thicker, bigger sound. But there's a trick to this that's super easy to do with Xpitch, and all you have to do is pull the strength down. So what the strength does is it tells Xpitch how much to tune each note. So if a note is really far off and you have it to 100%, it's gonna force that note to be perfect. But if that note is pretty far off and you have it to 50%, it's only gonna get 50% closer to the note center. So what happens when you apply this to a big group of vocals is it just maintains more of the variation, and it creates that bigger sounding chorus effect that you're going for with this type of production. It's still in tune, it's still tuning the vocals and making sure that they sound good, but it's just keeping more of the natural variation. Now we also have these stacks of vocals which have a similar production style. So I'll copy Xpitch over. These are still in group 2, so we'll have the same settings. I like that, sounds great. So we've got a few more parts here. We've got this vocal fill, and these are parts where the producer baked in a lot of the effects, which is a great thing. Whenever there's something really characteristic of the track, it's great to just bake that in with the production, as opposed to trying to recreate it in the mix. Generally, if you like something in the production, you like a reverb or a delay or a tuning or anything like that, bake it in before it gets mixed. That way it's gonna maintain the right character. So it's a really cool production aspect where there's some reverse parts happening. There's like a reverse reverb here, this verb fill track. And it's super easy for us now in the mix because it already sounds really good. Everything's tuned, so we don't really need to worry too much about it. Just make sure that it's placed in the mix properly.
Well, we could just fuck around for a minute, get to know the city limits on.
We also have these other few tracks down here, which seems like more vocal effects. Again, baked in from the production, which is great. That's exactly what we want. Of course, we could recreate that in the mix, but if you like it in the production, keep it baked in, and that way you'll make sure you like it in the mix. And this is even important if you're mixing your own tracks. A lot of times if you produce the entire track, you leave everything kind of raw with all your plugins on it, and then you get to the mixing phase, it can just be a lot to try to figure out what needs to happen. And you might start changing things that you wouldn't necessarily need to change. I always find it's a great idea, once you're happy with the production, print all the effects in that you know you want to keep before you start mixing. That way when you get to the mix, you can just focus on elevating everything. I would definitely recommend not wiping your session clean before sending it to mixing. That just generally leads to a lot of double work, and probably you're not going to be as happy with it because you liked how you did it in the production. So bake in the important effects and let the mixer just elevate the tracks overall.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting over. I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me breathe.
So that's the next step. Make sure everything is tuned properly. A lot of times the tuning might be baked in at the production level, at which point you wouldn't have to worry about it in the mix. But sometimes it's nice to have that control over the tuning at the mix phase so you can make sure everything is exactly how you want it. So the next thing I'd like to do is process the vocals and get them to a good baseline. So I've got Xvox Pro on this lead vocal track. Let's start dialing in some compression.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball.
I love how Xvox Pro is just bringing it right to the front of the mix. The compressor sounds really natural, really great. I'm gonna play around with some different modes and try some different compressors out just to see what we have to work with.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free.
So this smooth dynamics mode is incredible on this vocal. It's just smoothing out all of those leaps in the dynamics, making it sound super upfront and just smooth overall. Take a listen to it before and after this compression.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting. I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard.
So you can hear how it's just bringing it right to the front of the mix. This compressor is really great for that. Let's move on and apply some tone. Now for this particular vocal, we want to give it a little bit more of a confined tone. We want it to feel very present, give it a little bit more of an indie pop vibe.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah.
Now we have a bunch of different tone modes that we can play around with. I'm going to play around with this vintage mode.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free.
So that's giving us that nice presence bump. It's bringing it to the front of the mix in a really nice way. The one thing it's missing just a little bit is that shine on the high end. So I'm going to bring up the Air Plus just to help give this vocal a little bit more of that airy texture.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe.
I really like what that's doing, but now we need to worry about the S's. And that's where this De-Esser is going to come into play. The De-Esser is just going to control the sibilance, and it's going to do it in a really transparent way.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard.
So listen to this phrase here, superficial.
Out no more. Superficial love.
A lot of S's and sibilance there. We're just going to bring this De-Esser up until it feels natural.
Out no more. Superficial love feeling. Out no more. Superficial love feeling like.
We just want to find the spot where this DS meter only really lights up when there's an S sound happening, and it sounds nice and smooth.
Out no more. Superficial love feeling like a. Out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball.
So that's much better already. So take a listen to where we're at before and after the dynamics and tone of Xvox Pro.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more.
So it's just bringing it right to the front of the mix. We're adding a lot of compression, which is bringing up all those softer elements, making them feel very present. We're also getting a really nice tone here out of the vintage tone mode. I will roll off a little bit of the lows, just in case there's some rumble happening in those subs.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball.
Really nice sounding vocal so far, but now I want to apply a little bit of space.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah.
So this reverb and delay combo with Dark Hall sounds really nice to start with. Of course, we can try a lot of different reverbs here. We've got a lot to play with, so let's turn it up a little bit and really listen to these different reverbs.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like.
So far, Dark Hall and Digital are my favorite because they're a little bit more confined. There's a lot going on in this track. I like how these feel very defined. Plate and Vibrant are a little bit more lush and blooming. Really nice reverbs, but for this track, I think something a little tighter. Let's keep listening.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No.
So a lot of really cool sounds there. I think in this track, Crystal, Chamber, those stuck out to me as being really nice fits. Chamber had a little bit more mid-range presence. Crystal was a little bit shinier on the highs. I think overall I'm going to go with Digital. I think that's just the most defined reverb. It just sounds like it goes with the rest of the track.
I don't wanna go out no more.
Now the one thing I like as well is the delay on this one, and the delays are matched to the reverbs, but I want to just duck that delay out of the way so that when the lead vocal is there, when the dry vocal is there, the delay is being ducked down and not getting in the way of the lead vocal. This is just going to help maintain the articulation of the vocal.
See, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a bore.
So the last thing I want to do is just apply a little bit of saturation, a little bit of analog character into this vocal. And we have a couple different options. The tape sat, and we also have the amp. Now the amp is going to be a little bit more of like a driven effect.
See, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah.
But you can hear in those lower amounts, it's just a really unique way to warm up and give it a little bit of character. Tape sat is going to be a little bit warmer and rounder on the top end. It's going to be a little bit less driven, but just kind of the perfect amount to add that warmth to the vocal.
See, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a bore. Something to just set me free. See, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard.
So I really like tape sat on this one. It's just natural and nice. If I was going for something a little more aggressive, I might choose the amp model, but I really like tape sat here. So let's take a listen before and after Xvox Pro on this track.
See, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more.
I love how that sounds. The vocal is just right to the front of the mix, which is exactly what we want. It's a great starting point. So now I'm going to copy that over to our other lead vocal tracks. So now all of our leads have that same processing. Now we might want to tweak it a little bit in the verse.
Won't admit it, say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Wasn't even gonna go out tonight, I met you though, and you're taking me to places that I've never seen before. We could just fly.
So generally I like to add a little bit more contrast between different sections of the mix. And one way to do that is with the space of the vocals. So we're just going to pull the space down a little bit with the reverb and delay. And I'm also going to actually just shorten the reverb a little bit. This is just going to give it a little bit tighter sound in the verse and then bloom out a little bit more in the hook.
Won't admit it, and you're taking me to places that I've never seen before. We could just fly up in the way, yeah. Won't admit it, say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Wasn't even gonna go out tonight, I met you though, and you're taking me to places that I've never seen before. We could just fly up in the way, yeah.
And I might pull back some of the ducking on the delay here.
Won't admit it, say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Wasn't even gonna go out tonight, I met you though, and you're taking me to places that I've never seen before.
I really like how that delay is adding some width to this vocal in the verse. It's giving it a different character. Let's hear the transition now into the hook.
We could just fly up in the way, yeah. See, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard.
Yeah, so now that hook just feels a little bit bigger, and it's not necessarily something that you could instantly hear and say, oh yeah, that's what it is, but it just feels a little bit bigger, and that's kind of what we're going for in this mix. So let's move on to some of these stacks and harmony tracks. Now, what I like to do with these is just group them together, and I'm going to call this Vox stack, and I'll group these together and call these harmonies. And I'm just going to kind of process these together. And before I even do that, I'm going to work on the panning a bit, just to give some space to this mix.
Overboard. Overboard. Overboard.
I like how that sounds.
It's getting overboard.
And when we pan it out, we can actually bring it back up and level a little bit as well.
It's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more.
Let's hear what this 5 and 6 are. Yeah, it sounds really nice. I'm going to narrow these up just a little bit.
Yeah, I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a bore.
Now, one thing when you start panning, especially vocals, you want it to still feel balanced. You don't want it to feel like it's leaning left or leaning right. And so sometimes you might need to just play around with which ones you're panning left and which ones you're panning right. Make sure that you've got a nice balance there. So this particular track is a little bit louder. It's just a little bit higher part. So it's kind of leaning left. So I'm just going to rebalance this. So now I'm going to apply Xvox Pro to this entire group, and let's take a look at what's happening here. I like the Vox Bus compressor. It's just a gentle compressor. It's really great on vocal buses.
I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love, feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free.
And again, I'm just going to kind of shape the tone of this just to fit in nicely with the rest of the track.
I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love, feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No.
So I like what that's doing to the tone. I'm going to apply just a little De-Esser just to be safe.
I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love, feeling like a ball. Something like a ball.
The last thing I'm going to do is just a little bit of space here. I think just kind of pushing these back in the mix is going to be a nice way to help them wrap around the lead instead of step on top of it.
So like a ball, something to just set me free. Like a ball, something to just set me free. No, like a ball, something to just set me free. No, you and I, we got a problem. Overboard, I'ma need some time to breathe.
I want to be careful not to overdo the reverb though. It's nice having that little bit more of a stark vocal there on those stab parts.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe.
Very nice. I'm going to copy this over to the harmony stack here, and let's see what we were working with. So again, we want to definitely pan these out and get some width going. So again, I'm just balancing based on what feels right, what feels about the same on the left and the right. And you can see like some of these tracks are not necessarily left and right, like this Harmony 7 track. So I'm putting that one a little bit more in the center. Some of these are a little stronger, like 5 is a little stronger than 6, even though they're kind of doing the same, part rhythmically. Feels nice and balanced.
I don't wanna go, I don't wanna go, there's something in the way I'm feeling. I don't wanna go.
Now, because this is in this bridge part, it would be cool to do something a little different with it. Maybe a little bit more of a kind of confined, muted type of vocal stack. So let's play around with some filters. And I'm also going to use the SFX routing filter post. That's just going to take these filters and put them at the end of the chain.
I don't wanna go, I don't wanna go, I don't wanna go. There's something in the way I'm feeling. I don't wanna go, I don't wanna go.
So that's a pretty cool effect. I like the big reverb and a little bit of that filtered sound.
I don't wanna go, I don't wanna go, I don't wanna go. There's something in the way I'm feeling. I don't wanna go, I don't wanna go,
Just gotta make sure that's tucked in nicely.
I don't wanna go, I don't wanna go, I don't wanna go.
So even though we're filtering out the highs, Applying a little bit of this air is actually going to be kind of nice. It's going to bring in some of that crispy, sizzly high end. It's actually doing a really cool effect where we're getting a sizzly reverb, but we're also getting kind of a muted sound at the end. It just works together really nicely. So take a listen before and after this Xvox Pro. A really cool effect there on this harmony vocal stack.
Set me free. No, you and I, we got a problem. Set me free. No.
Now I might not want that effect on these particular harmonies. I kind of want these to be processed more like the ones down here. So I'm actually just going to copy it down and see if it works.
Like a ball, something to just set me free. No, set me free. No.
I like how that fits in there. So on this Ad Lib 2, I kind of want to lead style processing as well as on Ad Lib 1. But on Ad Lib 2, I might actually play around with a little bit more of a radio effect. I'm going to play around with these filters maybe.
Shit, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting over. Shit, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard.
So there's a lot of different ways we could treat this. I think this is kind of a cool effect. Maybe add some delay and reverb.
Shit, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. Shit, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe.
Sounds very cool. I like that. Let's play around with maybe Ad Lib 1. Let's see what that sounds like.
Something to just set me free. Something to set me free. Something to just set me free. Something to set me free.
Yeah, I like that. Just a little bit more reverb, a bit more of a blooming reverb with the plate there. And then also just a little bit less compression, just to make sure it sits behind the lead a little bit more. So listening back to it, I think this part we could probably broaden up a bit, maybe not quite as radio sounding.
Shit, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting over.
Yeah, it feels really nice there. So now we've processed our vocals and we've got a really good sounding vocal stack going here.
Shit, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe.
So let's just listen before and after Xvox Pro on all these vocals.
Shit, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free.
So I love how that sounds on the vocals. We've got a really good starting point for our processing there. The last thing I'm going to do is I'm just going to send all of these vocals to a single vocal bus. And this is going to come in handy later, but I'm going to send these out to bus 3. That's going to create this bus over here. We're going to call this our all Vox bus.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some.
So now we can quickly access all of our vocals right here on this bus. Now it's time to move on to the rest of the track. So let's start looking at some of the other elements in this track. Let's start with the drums. Most of the drums are happening on this drum kit track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to load the new Xrack Pro, and this has a lot of great tools for drums, for bass, for all different instruments. But what we're going to do is we're going to try to get these drums to have a little bit more punch and a little bit fatter transient. So let's take a look. First thing we can do is a little bit of saturation, and I'm actually going to flip over here to the 2-inch tape. So you can see as we push this saturate slider up, we're getting that sound of overdriven tape. It sounds really fat and punchy, but it is starting to break up a little bit in the same way that tape would if you were hitting the red. So let's just back it off until it feels nice and natural. So it's really nice. It's adding a little bit of grit to these drums, which I like. We can also play around with the saturation character slider, which is a really cool way to interact with these different tones. We can either have a crisp sound or a warmer sound. So let's take a listen to what that sounds like. So warm is getting really fat and big in the lows, which I like. Crisp is getting tighter in the lows and a little bit more punchy in the highs. On this particular track, let's take a listen to it in context and see if we want either of those.
Fuck around for a minute, get to know the city limits. On the say it better if you're feeling something, won't admit it. Say whatever you want to say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Wasn't even gonna go out tonight, I mentioned.
So there's just something about what this is doing to these drums when you pull it down towards warm. It's just giving the drums a lot more power and a lot more presence in the lows, which is really cool on this particular track. There isn't a ton of low end in the bass, so we can let this kick breathe a little bit more in those subs. Just makes it feel a little bit more powerful. I don't want to go too crazy with it, but just a little bit can do a lot.
Fuck around for a minute, get to know the city limits. On the say it better if you're feeling something, won't admit it. Say whatever you want to say, but you're making me feel some type of way.
So the other thing I want to try with these drums is some tone shaping. And I'm going to flip over to this present tone mode. And this tone mode is really nice on drums. It's very colorful. So when you're boosting and cutting, it's going to be very colorful curves. It sounds really nice on drums.
Fuck around for a minute, get to know the city limits. On the say it better if you're feeling something, won't admit it. Say whatever you want to say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Wasn't even gonna.
It's just adding that nice bite and crack to the snare, a little bit more brilliance to the cymbals. It just kind of lifts it up out of the track.
Fuck around for a minute, get to know the city limits. On the say it better if you're feeling something, won't admit it. Say whatever you want to say, but you're making me feel some.
The last thing I'm going to try is this maximize module, and this is a multi-band dynamics processor. Let's just play around with OTT and maybe try some different modes.
Fuck around for a minute, get to know the city limits. On the say it better if you're feeling something, won't admit it. Say whatever you want to say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Wasn't even gonna go out tonight, I met you though, and you're taking me to places that I've never seen before. We could just fly.
So open sounds really nice. Take a listen to it soloed out. So it keeps all the punchiness of the drums, but it allows you to get that kind of OTT sweetness. If you listen to just straight up OTT, you'll hear how it kills the transients. You just lose all the crack of the drum whenever you put straight up OTT on it. But with open, it actually maintains all of that punch and transient, but you still get the sweetness effect. So it just wakes these drums up in a really pleasant way.
Fuck around for a minute, get to know the city limits. On the say it better if you're feeling something, won't admit it.
So let's move on to this hook where we have some more percussive elements coming in. So this clap is just kind of a nice layer. We might try to sweeten it up and add a little bit more sizzle. Again, super easy to do with Xrack Pro like that. Let's hear this hat fast.
I don't wanna go out no more.
Kind of a cool percussive fill. Let's move on to the bridge where we have some other elements like the kick. We have these halftime drums and these iron sticks.
I don't wanna go.
So it's such a cool sound there. Let's just warm it up a little bit. We're gonna add a little bit of console emulation here, this A strip. A little bit of compression, and we might even do a little bit of multi-band dynamics here. So this is just kind of containing it, making it sound a little bit more controlled dynamically. It's also fattening it up. Another thing I'm noticing here on the analyzer is that we've got a lot of sub information on this track when probably we don't need it. So we probably just want to roll that off. So rhythmically, this track is also following it. Let's see what this is sounding like. So kind of what we want to do is glue these together mix-wise. I like how that's sounding. Let's play around with these halftime drums. Now, these are really cool sounding drums. I just want to give them a little bit more smack. I'm going to look at this solid dynamics compressor here. And this is just going to add a lot of smack to these drums. So you hear how it goes from kind of a dull transient to a lot more smack. We didn't lose the character of the drums. We're just adding a little bit more smack on that with the compression. You could also play around with the transient. So you can see with this transient control, we've got direct control over the transient and how that relates to the sustain of each percussive hit. In this case, I think I like the solid comp for adding that stickiness. It's a little bit more subtle. The transient would be if we wanted these like really hard hitting kind of knocking drums, we'd probably reach for the transient knob. So this is sounding really nice on the drums. We've got Xrack Pro on a few of these different instances. Let's take a listen before and after.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. Yeah. I don't wanna go out no more.
So you can hear when we engage Xrack Pro, it's just bringing these drums up, really helping them cut through the mix. Let's move on to the bass. So we really want this bass to feel chunky and fat. We want it to have a nice groove, but we want to add a little bit more warmth and fatness. And for this, I'm going to probably play around with one of the tape modes here. So cassette has a really round top end to it. It sounds really nice, especially on low end instruments like this. I'm going to drive it and see what happens if we add a little bit more grit. The bass is already pretty distorted from how it was tracked, but I kind of like a little bit more of this tape saturation as well. I'm also going to opt for one of these compressors, and I think I'm going to go for the satin compressor. This is just an ultra smooth compressor. It's great on low frequency instruments. So we just pumped this compressor up, and all of a sudden this bass is so much more solid. It's more upfront. It just feels way smoother overall. So now let's play around with some of the tone settings here. So I'm going to actually flip over to this blue tone mode. And that's because this has a really unique shape on this low. Now, all of these tone modes are analog matched curves. So this is basically like a best of the best of all these analog EQs, and they're super easy to use with this interface. Now, what I like about it is we're getting to boost some of these low, really beefy frequencies of the bass, but we're also, as we're doing that, because of the way this particular EQ works, we're actually pulling some of the muddier low end out, some of those low mids. So when we engage it, you feel that bass just get a lot bigger, but it doesn't get muddier. If you did this with different other EQs, you probably would start to notice some mud start to happen as you boosted those lows like that. But with this particular tone mode, it cleans it up by itself, just by the nature of how it works.
Shit, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more.
So one thing with a groove bass like this, we have to bring those mids up a little bit too, because those have to really cut through. We got to kind of hear that bass line. It's part of what gives this track kind of that magical groove feel. So let's pull some of the high mids up.
Shit, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No, you and I, we got a problem. Shit, I don't wanna go out no more.
Yeah, I like what that high mid is doing. I just kind of feel like I'm starting to hear a little bit more of the pick or the finger on the string, and it just sounds a little bit cleaner that way. So let's balance this in with the rest of the mix.
Shit, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe.
I like how that sounds. Let's look at this street bass.
I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go. I don't.
And in this part of the track, everything kind of drops out, and it's almost like we want to hear this bass be really big and wide, but still controlled. So again, I'm going to look to this Satin Dynamics to help us out with that. We also have this sub slider, and the sub slider is really nice because it helps us target those super low sub frequencies without having to completely eliminate them like with a filter. So we can play with bringing it down just a little bit to clean it up if we need to.
I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go. There's something in the way I'm feeling. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go out no more.
So that bass sounds way more solid now overall. So we've got drums and bass feeling pretty good. Let's move on to these guitars. Now this guitar rhythm is kind of the main guitar track. So let's play around with this one and let's see if we can add even a little bit more interest. Now the producer had put in some delay and some other, spatial effects, which do a really nice job on this guitar. It's great that they're in there. It sounds great. Let's see if we can just enhance it a little bit. So this retro modulate mode in Xrack Pro is really cool on guitars, especially ones like this where you do kind of want it to have a little bit of a retro feel to it. It just kind of brings it to the front of the mix in a different way, so it gives it its unique space in the mix.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe.
The other thing we could play with is just a little bit of tone. Now on guitars, mids are super important for getting that presence across. Let's play around with this clean mode.
Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No.
So it's a subtle way to just kind of bring that guitar up. We might even play around with a little bit of compression. Some of those notes are getting a little bit lost.
I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No. You and I, we got a problem.
Yeah, I love how that sounds there. Now, we have these little guitar lead noodles as well. I'm just going to copy our settings over, see how that works.
You and I, we got a problem. And I never wanted to solve them. But I say out with you till the next song. Say whatever you want to say, but you're making.
Now we have this really cool guitar solo in this track. I also want to apply Xrack Pro to that just to make this thing sound massive. So the opto compressor here is really smooth and warm. Sounds great on guitars or really just any kind of lead instrument. It does a great job of bringing it to the front. It's not like a super aggressive sounding compression. It's just a bit more natural and just very smooth. Also play around with a little saturation, maybe some console style saturation here. Yeah, the end strip sounds great here. It's just really nice and punchy in your face. Let's take a listen in the mix. So a little bit of OTT here is really nice at sweetening up this guitar. Let's just play around with that, see if we like a little bit of that in there. Yeah, I really like how that sounds. I also added a little bit of mids and high mids here just to help that bite through the mix a little bit more. So now we've got some really nice guitar processing here. Let's play around with some of these keys. Now, there's that one key track that when we were going through the tracks, I noticed right away, which is this reverse piano sound. It's one of my favorite sounds of this production. So I want to see if we can just bring it more to the front of the mix without making it obnoxious. We just want to give it its place in the mix. A little bit of compression here might go a long way. I'm thinking kind of a FET compressor, a little bit more aggressive sounding, a little bit more colorful. What it does is it just brings those peaks down a little bit so we can bring up the overall, reverse sound, just so we don't hear only the end of it. Let's see if we like that in the mix. It starts to get a little bit much with that much compression, so maybe we dial that back. So now we're just getting those kind of reverse sounds. They just feel like they've got their own space a little bit more in the mix. Let's play around maybe a little bit of OTT as well to sweeten them up. Yeah, I like how that's kind of cutting through the mix a bit better now. Maybe some of these keys we'll play around with as well. You can tell they're nice and warm, but they are just a little bit muddy. So we're going to clean those up a little bit with Xrack Pro. And for this, I'm actually going to use this clarity tone mode. And what's nice about this is it actually has proportional Q curves, just like the analog EQ that it was modeled after. And so we can get this kind of, sharper, more precise cut wherever we want to cut some of the mud. So it just cleans it right up, but we're not losing it entirely. We're getting just a little bit of that nice character in there. Maybe we'll add a little bit of compression just to keep this one confined. There are those kind of cool click sounds that are kind of baked into the keys there, which is pretty cool sounding. So I love how that sounds. Let's take a listen to this hook, and we're just going to bypass all of the Xrack Pros that we've already loaded. Just hear what it sounds like before and after.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe.
just sounds a lot crisper and bigger sounding. So once I've gone through all the individual tracks and I've kind of done whatever tweaks I want to on those, now I want to start thinking in terms of overall instrument groups, and I want to start processing that way. It's just a little bit easier to start manipulating the overall tone of a track when you're just working with the main instruments involved and not every single individual track. Like if you're thinking, okay, how does this snare track or this kick track impacting the overall tone of the drums? That's important to do to some degree, but sometimes it's just easier to process the entire drum bus and just kind of manipulate it to what you want it to be. And that's what I'm going to do here. So I'm going to think about this drum bus and I'm just going to try to get a fatter, warmer tone out of it. So right away when you engage the tube tone mode, it just does something really nice. It just makes it sound warm and fat. It sounds really great just by itself before we even tweak it. You can see I'm using the tone handles here to just kind of shift the weight of that low band a little bit lower, just to get rid of any woofiness in the kick. Just makes it feel a little bit more solid there. I'm also going to play around with this glue compressor on the drum bus. This is one of my favorite compressors on really any type of bus. It's just going to glue everything together. So this is a case where the sub slider really comes in handy. By pulling it down, we're able to just target those subs and still keep our low boost, which is giving us kind of those body frequencies in the lows. But we're getting rid of kind of the rumbly kick that we don't necessarily want here. So I'm loving what this is feeling like on these drums. They feel like they've got a little bit more warmth and punch to them. So now I'm going to actually group all the rest of these instruments without the bass guitar. And this is just kind of my guitars and keys bus. I'm going to call it the instrument bus for now. And I'm going to load Xrack Pro here as well. And the goal here is, again, add some warmth, add some fullness, and just kind of think of it in terms of the overall instrument bus. So now our instruments, our drums, the bass is sounding really nice. Our vocals are getting a little bit lost, and now we remember that we created this all vocal bus. This is the time where I like to also load Xrack Pro on the all vocal bus and just try to infuse even more warmth and color and character into these vocals and really bring them to the front of the mix.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. Something that just set me free. No, you and I, we got a problem, and I never wanted to solve them. But I say out with you till the new sun. Say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Don't look at me like that, make me wanna attack. Not looking for something, but you make me wanna come back. Because it's fire band.
So this end strip, just with a touch of saturation here on the vocal, just to make it feel like we were maybe hitting that console a little bit harder. We're adding just a little bit of glue compression to glue all the vocals together. And then I'm applying this curve on the EQ just to kind of bring these vocals a little bit more forward with some of these presence frequencies. The mids and the high mids here in the clean tone mode sound really nice on vocals, just bringing it up front.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more.
So the next thing I want to do is apply a little bit of overall Mixbus processing. And we're just going to kind of glue all these elements together, wake them up a little bit. Again, I'm just going to apply Xrack Pro to the Mixbus, and let's just play around with it.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something that just set me free. No, you and I, we got a problem, and I never wanted to solve them. But I say out with you till the next sun. Say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way.
So far, this glue compressor is doing a really nice job of getting everything nice and tucked in together and bringing it up. The 2-inch tape is adding some nice warmth and saturation. And then OTT here is just adding that final polish, that final touch on the Mixbus. I might even play a little bit more with the tone and just try to shape it a little bit more.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something that just set me free. No, you and I, we got a problem, and I never wanted to solve them. But I say out with you till the next sun.
So just a little bit of tone shaping there is going a long way towards kind of giving it this big polished sound. So now that I've gone through all of these elements of the mix and I've got a good kind of working mix going, now's the time where I'll take a break, I'll rest my ears. Now, this is a really important part of the process, to give yourself a break, take a step away from it and come back. Even 30 minutes or an hour away from it and then coming back can really help you to see it with a new perspective and then make those changes that you need to. All right, so I've taken a quick break, I've come back with fresh ears, and I've listened to where we're at with the mix, and there's definitely some things that I want to adjust. The first thing has to do with the overall lead vocal tone. Right now, the vocals feel very crisp and clean and pretty bright and airy, but I think actually on this particular track, it would be better if they were warmer and fuller and maybe less airy sounding. I think this is taking the track in more of a pop mix direction, and I want to give it back to a little bit more of the indie direction. So let's take a listen to this.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard.
So I'm just going to tweak the original Xvox Pro processing. I'm just going to tame the air and the high, and I'm going to maybe bring up some of the mids.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball.
And I just want to try to slam this vocal a little bit more. I think it could be a little bit more compressed on the actual track level.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something that just set me free. No, you and I, we got a problem.
So I definitely like that tone a lot better. I'm just going to apply that same tone to the verse here. So I like what that's doing to the tone of the vocal. Now I just want to take a look at the all vocal bus and maybe bring in some air at that level just to kind of lift all the vocals up.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something that just set me free.
So I really like where the vocal tone is now. What I want to do now is create a little bit more clarity and separation in the mix. And so the number one way to do that is with the faders. You know, before we get into any type of processing or tricks with the plugins, get the faders right so that everything feels like it's got its own place in the mix. So I'll start with the drums. I think the drums could hit a little harder, so I might bring them up a bit.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free.
So already just bringing up the drum kit and the bass, it's just already feeling like a little bit groovier. Same thing with these vocal stacks. I feel like they're getting, they're not adding as much life as they could. So let's go ahead and bring these up a bit. Yeah, so that seems like that vocal stack is glued in a bit better now. I do want to just play around with the tone a little bit more on this vocal stack.
Overboard, I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No.
So we're actually getting a much smoother sounding vocal stack by cutting the highs and boosting the mids with this clear mode. Just does a really good job of bringing up the presence without making it sound brittle.
Overboard, I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah.
So now as I'm listening to it, as we brought those drums up, I want to just kind of reshape the tone of these a bit. I think they're a little bit crunchy for the vibe that we're going for. So let's try to rebalance this tone.
Overboard, I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No. You and I, we got a problem, and I never wanted to solve them. But I say out with you till the next song. Say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Don't look at me like that, make me wanna attack. Not looking for something much.
So now it's a more subtle lift. You can see we're just doing very subtle lifts in the high, mids, and highs, but it just feels a little warmer overall.
Overboard, I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more.
So I want to try to make these harmony vocals a little bit more exciting throughout the mix. So for the part in the verse, I'm actually going to undo some of the filter and air and reverb that we added.
Feel some type of way. Don't look at me like that, make me wanna attack. Not looking for something much to make me feel some type of way. Don't look at me like that, make me wanna attack. Not looking for something much to make me wanna come back.
I really like what that's doing, and I like on this swell for them to be big like that.
Because it's fire band. I don't wanna go.
But I actually just want to automate this low pass filter, and I just want to kind of bring it in so that here towards maybe the first part of this bridge part where it kind of feels like it goes underwater, we're going to give it this filter just on that part.
Because it's fire band. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna know. It's something in the way I'm feeling. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go. I know more.
And it would also be cool if the reverb kind of came up there as well. So there, we'll go ahead and do our space reverb level.
Because it's fire band. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna know. It's something in the way I'm feeling.
Now we may also want to automate the volume of this part too, so that we don't get too loud here when we start getting all this reverb going. We'll just go ahead and tuck this back a little bit.
Because it's fire band. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna know. It's something in the way I'm feeling. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go. I know more. No more. Say I don't wanna go out no more.
Yeah, so that creates a really cool effect there as we transition from kind of normal big sounding background vocals into this cool kind of underwater part. So that sounds really cool. I like how that's feeling. Another thing, when the beat kind of drops out here in the lead vocal, I kind of want to drop the reverb in this part.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard.
So I'm just going to automate it down here.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be.
And it could be also cool to do that with the delay level as well. Just make it completely dry just for that part where the band drops out.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be.
So there's one trick I like to use with Xvox SFX on the all vocal bus, and that is the telephone trick. So if I just load the Xvox SFX individual plugin, I can load up the telephone mode, and then I'm just gonna blend it in ever so slightly. You can tell if we go all the way, it's gonna sound like all the vocals are coming through a telephone.
For a minute, get to know the city limits on the same better if I'm feeling something, won't admit it.
And that's not what we're going for. We want just a little touch of that sound.
For a minute, get to know the city limits on the same better if I'm feeling something, won't admit it. Say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Wasn't even gonna go out tonight, I met you though, and you're taking me to play.
It's kind of a way to get a little bit of a lo-fi vocal vibe without completely going lo-fi and rolling off a bunch of frequencies. It's just blending in a little bit of that telephone sound, and it creates kind of a cool texture. Let's see if we like it in the mix.
For a minute, get to know the city limits on the same better if I'm feeling something, won't admit it. Say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Wasn't even gonna go out tonight, I met you though, and you're taking me to places that I've never seen before. We could just fly up in the way.
Yeah, it just creates that kind of lo-fi magic on the vocal. It's very subtle, but it does just kind of rough it up a little bit. So the next thing I'm kind of hearing is that the vocals don't feel like they're really in the pocket of the track. We kind of need to create a little bit more of a pocket with the rest of the track. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to create my all instrument bus. This is going to be all of the instruments into one bus, and I'm going to load up Xrack Pro. So I want to create a little bit of space here. So I'm going to use this clean tone mode. I'm just going to pull out a little bit of the mids. And I can use the tone handle here to just kind of morph that curve a little bit lower, just to really pinpoint the area where I'm hearing that build up. So let's hear what that does with the rest of the vocals in there.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. I don't wanna go out no more.
I also think the bass is just a bit too loud and overpowering. Sometimes whenever you feel like the vocal doesn't have a pocket in the mix, it's probably because there's one or two elements that are kind of overpowering or fighting with the vocal, kind of tugging at your ear to listen to them. So let's just try pulling the bass down.
No more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like.
The other nice thing about setting up an all vocal and an all instrument bus is that we can now balance them globally. We can kind of balance the overall vocal with the overall track and see what feels the best.
No more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No more. Voices in my head's getting overboard.
So we can create really different feeling mixes. We can kind of tuck that vocal way into the mix, maybe a little bit more exciting because you're going to hear a lot more of the track kind of coming through. But at the same time, if you want a more modern pop mix that's going to translate well, probably you want the vocals to be a little bit more in your face.
No more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. I don't wanna go out.
So one of the last steps I like to do on a mix like this is a vocal ride. Now a vocal ride is where you're gonna transparently adjust the gain of the vocal in order to keep it tucked into the mix, keep it a bit more consistent. This is actually going to analyze the level coming in and then turn it up and turn it down in order to keep it a little bit more consistent. We don't wanna kill all the dynamics, of course. We just wanna kind of keep it more in the pocket. So the way I like to do this is with Xrider, I'll load it last in the chain, and then I'll just kind of set this target to where sometimes the true gain line goes up, sometimes it goes down.
See, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. Yeah. I don't wanna go.
And usually that means that the yellow line here is towards the top of these waveforms. You can see what that looks like there. Generally, that's a good spot. You can see this true gain line is sometimes turning it up, it's sometimes turning it down.
See, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard.
So once we set the target, I like to just tuck this min and max back a bit. So now it's just going to do very small movements to keep it within that range.
See, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. Yeah. I don't wanna go out no more.
So that adds just a nice final layer of polish that really helps these vocals sit in the pocket of the mix. So the final thing I want to try is just going back to this Mixbus processing. Now that I feel like the rest of the mix is working well together, I just want to see what I can do with this Mixbus and see if I can give it that final warmth and color that it needs.
But I say I want you till the next sun. Say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Don't look at me like that, make me wanna attack. Not looking for something much to make me wanna come back. We could just fly it back.
So obviously with this tape saturation, we get a lot of crunch as we, red line the tape. That's fine. We like a little bit of that. We don't want to overdo it, but a little bit of that is nice to kind of fatten the transients. But the other thing we want to try is this clipper here. Now the clipper, we have two options. We can use a soft clipper or the hard clipper. I'm going to try the soft clipper and I'm just going to push this max slider up and let's just hear what happens.
But I say I want you till the next sun. Say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way.
So you can hear as we're driving that clipper, we're getting a little bit more of that aggressive sound out of this track.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. Yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free.
So with these tone adjustments here, I'm just kind of having fun with it, seeing what feels right. For example, here when I pushed the lows up, it just felt like a little bit more exciting because we were getting some of that kick and bass and it just felt like it was pumping. Now, I may come back after another quick break and I may say, you know what, now the kick is out of control and I may dial that back. But for this stage in the mix, I just kind of like seeing what can happen.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be.
So listen to what Xrack Pro is doing on this Mixbus.
Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. Yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No.
So it's just gluing all these elements together. It's adding a ton of tone and vibe and color, and it's just making it a little bit more exciting to listen to. So now let's listen before and after all of the processing we've done on this mix.
Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No. You and I, we got a problem.
So a massive jump there with the processing. Obviously, we're getting a lot more excitement, a lot more character out of this track with all that processing we're doing. So I really like where this mix is sitting, and dialing it in was so fast and easy with these tools. I found that when I'm mixing, one of the most important things is workflow. Do you feel like you can move quickly, you can get the sounds you want, as quickly as possible so that you can just stay in that creative mindset? And these tools help me do that. These tools make it so that I can sit down, if I want to apply some compression or saturation, or if I want to fatten it up or sweeten it up, It's always right there. I can do it very quickly. And that translates for me into better mixes because I'm just thinking about the creative. I'm just thinking about, does this element need to be louder to make the mix more exciting? Does this element need to feel fatter and warmer? And then I can just achieve it very quickly without having to look through, a list of 200 plugins or jumping through hoops, dialing in very, lengthy chains. So experiment with these tools, try them on your mix. I hope you've learned something from this session. If you've enjoyed this video and you want to see more like this, leave us a comment, give it a like, and subscribe. We can't wait to see you in the next one. So with that, happy mixing.
I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No, 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 no. But we could just fuck around for a minute. Get to know the city limits. On the saying better if you're feeling something, won't admit it. Say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Wasn't even gonna go out tonight, I met you though. And you're taking me to places that I've never seen before. We could just fly up in the way, yeah. See, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard. I'ma need some time to breathe. Just let me be, yeah. I don't wanna go out no more. Superficial love feeling like a ball. Something to just set me free. No, you and I, we got a problem, and I never wanted to solve them. But I say out with you till the new sun. Say whatever you wanna say, but you're making me feel some type of way. Don't look at me like that, make me wanna attack. Not looking for something, but you make me wanna come back. We could just fly up in the way. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go. How long I know? It's something in the way I'm feeling. I don't wanna go. I don't wanna go. Out no more. No more. See, I don't wanna go out no more. Voices in my head's getting overboard.